Hi, I'm Kevin Elizabeth, a wedding photographer and a bridal boutique owner based in San Diego, and today I'm going to be talking about all things wedding as it is related to the coronavirus and the shutdown. So this is not a very happy video, neither was I think my second to last one, but I think that this is a very necessary video because so many brides right now are dealing with the negative effects of the coronavirus, not even in regards to being sick, but by having their wedding plans completely derailed. So I have so much to talk about today. I've got so many notes because there is so much to say. Now I will try to leave some timestamps down in the description below so you can check things out if you want to skip around, but because I have no work right now, I would love for you guys to watch the full video and really support my channel. That would just be absolutely amazing. So basically what's been going on, if you've been living under a rock, is that because of the coronavirus, most states have applied a shutdown and a prohibition of gatherings of more than a certain number of people, which means that weddings are not legally able to happen right now. It is really unfortunate. I myself was supposed to be in Colombia right now, in Cartagena, shooting a wedding, and I would be coming home probably like tomorrow. So definitely a huge bummer, and my weddings in other parts of the world might be postponed to next year. I've already had some local weddings postponed, and then at my bridal boutique, we have had about 80 so far, and more will come, of brides whose weddings have been postponed. And unfortunately, my boutique is closed right now because we're not allowed to be open. So my husband and I have been trying to work remotely really hard on keeping everybody organized and trying to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible during this really unfortunate shutdown. So that's basically what's been going on. And a lot of brides are having to postpone their weddings. Basically, a lot of brides in March, pretty much all of April brides and most May brides are now having to reschedule their weddings. I'm going to talk about what you should do if you still have your wedding date going ahead as planned, but it might be in May or June, maybe even July. We're going to get to that in a bit, but I just wanted to give a brief overview of what's been going on in the world at this time. Now, because the shutdown in most states has prohibited businesses from being open, please be understanding when it comes to something like a bridal boutique or another retail type store that you might have been using for your wedding that cannot be open. We cannot be open right now at my shop. I really wish we could. I would love to still be there to help out the brides who are getting married in the next month, and we need to get them all squared away. I am not legally allowed to do so. It comes with a huge fine and it is not worth the penalty. I cannot bring that upon myself, so please be understanding that businesses legally cannot help you right now in most cases. Because that is the case, that also applies to venues. So venues are probably not going to risk the penalties of continuing to host a wedding in this time. Plus, honestly, a lot of your guests probably aren't going to want to go out to a large gathering right now anyway. So I would say if you've been trying to fight your venue on keeping your wedding, I would probably give up that fight because I don't think it's going to happen. It's legally not allowed to happen, and that's just the unfortunate situation of it. So what options do you have? If you have already rescheduled or postponed, you don't know your date yet, or you're considering it, well, if you happen to have a backyard, now might be a really great time to make use of that for your wedding. Now, of course, if you do something like that, make sure that you are being respectful of your neighbors with the noise levels, especially after 8, 9, 10 p.m. Maybe also tell them ahead of time, hey, we might have a little bit of music going on in the backyard, nothing too crazy. We're just making the most of our wedding plans. So that is one option you have. Maybe your parent has a yard or a close friend. You probably could do that and get away with it. Now, of course, a lot of your guests might not be able to make it or might not want to join something like that. But if you are really wanting to get married right now, save all of the vendors that you've hired, that is an option that you could have. But if that's not an option that you have, then you are probably just going to have to reschedule your wedding for another date. Obviously, you can take your own chances, but if you are definitely an April bride, you need to go ahead and reschedule your wedding. Do not wait. It is much better to just do it now, even if there's a chance that your wedding could have happened, than to wait too close and everything is complete chaos. So the more time you have for rescheduling, the better. April, please go ahead and reschedule. And honestly, if you are in the first half of May, I would probably go ahead and reschedule that as well. Second half of May, it probably really depends on where you live. I would probably lean towards rescheduling. That's just me. I wouldn't want to wait and see what's happening, only to have to reschedule anyway and not have as much time to deal with all of those plans. And the longer you wait to reschedule, the more dates are getting booked up for the remainder of this year and 2021 from those brides who are already rescheduling. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, June, I would definitely be really thinking about the possibilities, and I'll talk about this in a bit on how you should go ahead and be planning for all of these things, but that is just my piece of advice. Definitely April, please just go ahead and reschedule. May, definitely think about it. June, maybe start putting some backup plans into action. Now, when it does come to rescheduling, you might be wondering, when should I reschedule to? And my best answer, as well as other wedding vendors' answers, is that it is best for you and for the vendors to reschedule within 2020. Even if that means you don't get a Saturday date, which I'll talk more about in a bit, that is going to be the best thing, because if you are moving into 2021, you might incur some additional fees from your vendors that they would not have charged had you rescheduled within the same calendar year or within 6 months, whatever your contract states. The thing that is really good about this, like the bright side, is that at least you'll have more time to save for your wedding, save for your honeymoon. You get a little extra planning time. So I know that this really sucks. Like, it really sucks to have your wedding essentially postponed or canceled and you have to move it. It's horrible. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm also feeling this too. Like, brides have their wedding pushed. I've had several of my brides postpone their weddings. So I basically don't have any weddings to shoot until July, maybe not even August. And that's really just been so awful to deal with. But the nice thing is that at least you are gonna have a little bit more time to plan by pushing it out, but then try to keep it within 2020, because again, you don't want to incur additional fees. Now, I mentioned don't be afraid of not having a Saturday date. Sundays are great. I got married on a Sunday. You might think, well, my guests have to take Monday off of work, but if you had a Saturday wedding, they most likely had to take Friday off of work if they were traveling. So Sundays are really great. A lot of brides are actually rescheduling to Monday through Thursday weddings now because they want to keep it in 2020. I really think that weekday weddings are going to become a much bigger deal this year because of the coronavirus. So if you want to keep all of your vendors, definitely consider moving it to a non-Saturday or a non-weekend date. It is not that bad. Really, you have to make the most of it. If you can't get another Saturday or Sunday till 2021, think about what's more important to you, having your wedding sooner and having it this year, or having it on a Saturday and having to wait maybe another full year for it. So that's a personal preference, but I want to encourage you guys not to be afraid of non-Saturday, non-Sunday weddings. Of course, you will have to deal with traffic if you have multiple locations, but that's where proper planning comes in. I did mention that if you are having your wedding outside of 2020, that's when you're rescheduling to, that you might incur some extra fees. So my contract with my client states that if they're going to reschedule their wedding, if they reschedule it within 6 months from the original date, everything is locked in. They pay no additional fees. And if it's beyond that, then they start to have to pay current prices. So for example, if my prices are now $2,000 higher than what they paid, technically they would have to pay an additional $2,000. But because of the circumstances, what I'm at least allowing my clients to do if they're scheduling to 2021 or beyond 6 months is to split that difference. So instead of $2,000 extra, it's $1,000 extra, something like that. So that's just what I'm doing. Other vendors might not have this at all. Some vendors might not charge you any extra. My rates have raised significantly over the last year because my cost of doing business has raised, and so many different factors. So that's just what I am doing, but I'm at least letting them split the difference, so I'm not charging them the full difference of the current prices. But you're gonna have to check your contracts, check with all of your vendors. But again, if you are going within 2020, you probably won't have to deal with any additional fees for scheduling to a different date. I know that if there are vendors who are charging additional rates, that might not be ideal for you, but just know that they are hurting. My business is hurting because of this shutdown. I take on a very select amount of weddings, and now I have so few for this year. So I've opened up my availability again for other brides later this year who are rescheduling their wedding, or brides who just now decided to plan a wedding for later this year, because I wanted to shoot a certain amount of weddings this year, and now it looks like almost like a third of them are getting pushed to next year. So now I'm looking to book another third of weddings for this year. So know that they're hurting. So I would just say try to be respectful of what their policies are. And again, if you are having to incur those fees, at least it's another year away where you have more time to save for that. So if it's a key vendor that you really want to keep, it might absolutely be worth it. So one huge thing that you really need to be aware of before you start checking on new dates with your venue is you need to make sure that your key vendors who can only be at one wedding on one day, so like a photographer, maybe a planner, or basically any business that is just a single type person where they're on site all day and they don't have associates. People like florists can usually do more than one wedding a day depending on how big their team is, and maybe catering and things like that, bakeries definitely. But for your key vendors who can only be in one wedding for one day, you need to make sure they have your date available before you go and book it with your venue. Because I have had photographer friends tell me that their couples rescheduled to a date they didn't have available, and guess what? You don't get any of that money back. They can't work your wedding, they can't give you that deposit back, so you have to now find a completely new photographer and spend all that money, and you've lost that deposit or retainer, which is fair. That's what's stated in their contract. So please, you can absolutely avoid this by making sure that the key vendors you want to keep for your wedding can still do your potential wedding dates. What I did for my clients was I sent them a list of every 2020 date that I do not have available, and I said any other date is open for me and you can have it. But these dates, please don't book that because I'm already booked. So I was able to do that for them, which was great. They were able to choose a new date that worked for them. Now, when you are emailing your vendors, letting them know about your wedding plans, please try to not say that your wedding has been canceled. That is really scary, and it's like, oh my God, this is never happening again. If you are truly canceling your wedding and you have no plans to have another wedding, then yeah, say it's canceled. But if you are just going to postpone, maybe you don't know your date yet, just say you're having to reschedule. Do not scare people by saying canceled when it is not actually canceled. To kind of wrap all of this logistical stuff up, the reason that vendors take deposits is to hold your date and cover the work that they have done in preparation. For photographers, that usually covers my holding the date for my client, all of the prep and planning work I do for them, all the gifts that I send them, the engagement session is done and covered in that. The deposits are not being used to go have this luxurious lifestyle. They are used to cover the cost of doing business. And that is why you cannot have that money back if you simply cancel your wedding and are not moving forward with them. They are using that money to cover their cost of doing business related to your wedding. This is how it is. It is going to be extremely hard to fight something like this. And I find that most couples have been really respectful of this process from the contract, and that's just the way it is. It's not just money that they're spending willy-nilly, it's money that is going towards your job, and then the final balance covers the rest of the work that you might be doing on the wedding day itself, and then for photographers, all of the work after the wedding day until they deliver your files. So that is what the deposit or retainer is in place to cover, and that is why it is almost always non-refundable regardless of the situation. If you are kind of freaking out right now and you're like, I can't handle this, this is so much, I have to do all these things, now is your time to hire a wedding planner. And again, if you are postponing your wedding pretty far out, you will have enough time to save to pay that wedding planner. Now, if you just try to hire a day of coordinator, they're probably not going to be able to assist you in this process, but if you're at least hiring a month of or full service planner, they should hopefully be able to aid you in this postponement, rescheduling, talking with all the vendors, finding out new plans, and honestly, they can probably help save you money by helping you navigate the financial decisions in the best possible way. So please, everyone deserves help. You are probably so busy right now with all kinds of things. I mean, not really busy because people are just at home for the most part, but you're probably busy in your mind thinking about all these wedding plans, maybe trying to work from home, figuring out what to eat because you're so sick of the food you have in your house right now. All these different things are going on, so please don't feel like a planner would not be worth your time. I highly recommend, if you don't have one, hire one now to help you with this process. All right, so now I want to directly be speaking to the brides who are getting married in June, July, maybe even August through September. What I would recommend for you now, especially if you're on the earlier end of that, is to go ahead and formulate a plan B. It does not hurt to have a backup plan. What I mean by that is talk to your venue. Ask, hey, just in case we decide to postpone, what are some other dates that you have available this year or next year, whenever you want to reschedule to? Please go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and reach out to your key vendors, say, hey, we might be postponing, just want to check how that works. Let them know this is going on and have a plan B in place so that if you do have to reschedule, you know immediately what date or 2 dates could work for you that you could move on and secure before another bride postponing snatches those dates up. So it really does not hurt to have a backup plan. You need to be prepared. It's possible this shutdown could go on through the summer. Nobody wants it to. I certainly want to get back to work. I want to start making money again. I want to get out of my house and just be out breathing fresh air for more than 10 minutes a day. But it's possible that that might be our reality. So please don't think, oh, like this will just blow over. It's not a big deal. That is a really bad attitude to have right now when you might be faced with the reality that your wedding, even if it's in July, might get pushed. I have a client who went ahead and rescheduled their July wedding for 2021 just because they didn't want to have to worry about it down in crunch time. They wanted to get it done now and secure a new date that they were going to be happy with. Another tip is to get wedding insurance if you can. I don't know how that's working right now. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but try to see if you can get it now so that you are protected should anything else happen this year. And if you are getting ready to send out your invitations, I would suggest maybe waiting a little bit longer than usual because guests right now, say the coronavirus shutdown starts to dwindle and things start to get better. If that's in 3 weeks and they get their invite then, they're going to be a lot more likely to say yes than they might be if they got those invites right now when times are a lot more uncertain. So hold off a little bit, and then what I would also recommend doing is writing a handwritten note or print something out and stick it with each invitation that says, hey, it's possible we might be rescheduling this, so just keep an eye out for your email or whatever it might be. We will keep you posted. This is our date for now, but should anything happen, this is a possibility. So just letting them know is something that's really nice so that they can also be prepared in their minds for this situation. Lastly, I surely hope that if you are getting married in June, July, and August, that you already have your wedding dress. If you do not, know that there is probably no designer in the world right now that can make you a gown to arrive in time. I mean, all of the boutiques are closed, so the second they open, your mission is going to have to be to find an off-the-rack sample gown. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but especially if you're getting married in September, you are probably not going to be able to get a made-to-order, special order gown. You are going to have to get off the rack. There is almost no way you're going to be able to get a gown that is special ordered for you because there's just no time, and again, like the designers are not going to be able to produce this right now. So please, the second shop's open, you need to go in and you need to get yourself a gown. Now, having mentioned that, this is a really big deal, wedding dresses. You might not think it is, but typically wedding dresses take 4 to 6 months to arrive at the boutique from the designer. That's pretty standard across the board. Some are slightly on the longer end, some are a little bit quicker, but generally we like to tell our brides 4 to 6 months because that allows for some padding, with anything that happens or if they get really busy. 4 to 6 months is your great estimate. That's just typically what it takes. Now, normally, designers would be offering rush options. So say you are getting married earlier than 6 months, they will have rush options that get increasingly more expensive depending on how close your wedding date is to the date you're buying your dress. Unfortunately, pretty much every designer we know of is not allowing rush shipping because of the coronavirus. So what that means is that currently, if we were to see a bride right now, we would probably be able to get an October bride a special order gown if we saw her right now. If we see a bride at the end of April, we might not be able to get her a gown for October, just depending on the coronavirus situation. So if you are getting married in November or later, even though you might have thought, I've got time to get my dress, I'll go this summer, go now. The second it opens, make an appointment and get in there, and know that a lot of brides are probably going to be doing that. So it is not a bad idea to go ahead and email some boutiques, maybe they're working from home, and ask to be put on the calendar for the date they think they'll be open, and then they can always reschedule you if they're still not open. But you need to go ASAP. I cannot stress that enough. Unless you are content with buying something off the rack, which typically at most bridal stores is around a street size 6 to 8. So maybe if you're a 10, you could make it work. If you're a 4, you could make it work. but you should probably be asking people, especially if you're getting married before October, ask boutiques, what sizes do you have in off-the-rack dresses right now? And if they have something that might fit you, you might have to take it. Now, when you are in your bridal appointment, the second these shops can be open, especially if you're getting married at the end of 2020, please be decisive. You do not any longer have the luxury of shopping around for weeks on end to make a decision. You need to make a decision quickly, because you might be thinking, well, December, that's a lot more time than normal. Well, what if this coronavirus continues to cause delays even on the designer side and production, or they're so backed up that now maybe it's more like 6 to 8 months for the normal turnaround time. So please do not take your time, take your time, but don't drag out the process. I would say that you need to be really decisive. If you have found a gown that you love, nothing is missing from it, just buy it. You do not need to continue to shop for something that might be better. If you're wearing a dress, you love it, nothing is wrong with it, it's not missing anything, that has to be your dress in these times. Now, some people are really great at already being decisive in those situations and just going for it, but some brides feel like they have to keep shopping in case there's like a blow it out of the water, like mind-blowing dress. Usually that's the one they're already wearing and they love, they just don't realize it. So I am telling you this to encourage you to be extremely decisive in your process and go ahead and get your gown locked down to be on the safe side. If you want a special order gown, go shopping, find one that you love, nothing's missing, and go ahead and buy it. Don't take too long to sleep on it. Like, you should have already been happy in this dress because it has nothing missing from it and you love it, but just get it. Like, I've said that 100 times now, but I really, really mean it. So on the kind of end of this video, I want to give you guys a few tips for how to mentally deal with the coronavirus affecting your wedding plans. The first thing is go ahead and have a backup plan so that you can have some peace of mind that things will be okay, that you have other options. The second is to know that you are not alone. Thousands, maybe more, like tens of thousands of brides and grooms are in the same boat as you right now. So everyone is in it together. And know that also all of your vendors are really in this. They're really feeling it. Each bride has their one wedding, and that is so, so important to them. And that is really, really, really sad when it gets postponed. And for these vendors who might have dozens of weddings that have been postponed or canceled, that is affecting them so deeply. So know that there are so many people in this boat with you that everybody can relate and understand to what you're going through. Now, some general tips for dealing with this coronavirus shutdown. Whether or not you think this is a big deal, if there has been a shutdown ordered in your area, please just stay inside. Don't go out around people, because even if you don't get sick, the more people that stay inside, the faster we can stop the increase of the spread of this virus, and the faster we can all resume normal activities. So even if you don't think it's a big deal out there, the more people that stay at home, the closer we get to having our normal lives back. So please heed that advice. Don't touch your face. That's already good for your skin anyway. It's really hard to do. Like, I just try to touch my hair instead of my face. And remember, if you're coughing, cough into your elbow. Wash your hands more often. They say that the areas of the hands that get the least cleaned are in between the fingertips themselves, and this general area on the hand. So when you're washing, especially if you've gone out and about, be sure to wash those areas extra well. Wipe your phone down, especially if you've touched things out and about, then touched your phone. Even if you haven't touched your face, the things you're bringing home on your phone can spread germs. So just clean all the stuff. Maybe clean down your groceries when you get them. My husband's been making us disinfect all of our packaging and everything we bring home. Everything you can do just helps, even if it's not necessary because the virus isn't on those things that you got. Honestly, might as well just do it. Like, you have probably plenty of time to do stuff like that now. I know I do. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. Another tip to really, and honestly, just stay sane is find hobbies that you can do at home, whether it's puzzles, video games, work on projects that have been on the back burner for a long time. We finally mopped our floors after a while. We got some organizational things done. We are trying to list stuff on eBay. So we are trying to make the most of this time. And if you can, go on a little walk in your neighborhood. People say that exercising outside is okay. Just stay in your neighborhood to do it and keep distance from people. So make sure you are getting a little bit of sunshine. Take a shower every day. Even though you're not seeing anybody, it might just make you feel a little bit better. So those are just some of my tips for staying sane in this. And if you want some reading to do, please go buy my book on Amazon, A Bride's Guide to a Picture Perfect Wedding. That and then watching all of my videos and not skipping ads are two great ways that you can help support me in this time. And if you do have any questions or would like some advice about this situation we're dealing with, please leave those comments down below. I know this was a very long video, so if you were still watching, I thank you for that, and I hope that this was extremely helpful, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!